In my past life, I was the fool she had wrapped around her finger, a complete doormat. But after I was reborn, I was the one who dragged her down from an A-list actress to a star on adult websites, a variety show hack, a C-list laughingstock. Every opportunity she thought was her big comeback was actually a move I controlled. Even the new benefactor she found, the president of Apex Entertainment, was just me pulling the strings from behind a different name all along. And yet, even after all that, when she lost her child, her uterus, and her career, and was sobbing a hospital bed, unable to breathe, I only paused for a moment. I delivered my final judgment with a detached calm. Do you see it now? A complete and utter clown. Because this time, I hadn't come to save her, nor had I come for revenge for that night of betrayal. I was here to make her understand a simple truth. The hands that play with others like toys will one day get so tangled in their own strings that they can never escape. I fell in love with Olivia at first sight, but she despised me from the bottom of her soul. Her younger brother was determined to get into a prestigious prep school, but couldn't afford the tuition. I used my connections to get to the headmaster, forcing her to bend to my will. She could never get over her first love, so I arranged for him to pursue a career in Hollywood. After we were married, she got drunk one night, and we slept together, only for her to whisper her first love's name in my ear. 7 months later, I was ambushed by my rivals, left critically injured and clinging to life. She just stroked her stomach, looked at the emergency call, and coldly pressed the end button. "He's coming home from Arizona State," she said. "I don't need you to raise my child anymore. You love me so much, don't you? Then give your position back to him." It was only then that I understood. The only reason she had been willing to sleep with me that night was because she was already pregnant with her first love's child. After my death, she married him without a second thought. The three of them went on to live a life of ease and happiness, all within the business empire that I had built. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the past, back in the days when I was utterly obsessed with her. I had fallen to the ground, and shards of glass were digging into my palm. My ears were ringing with a mess of voices and the noise of the world. My best friend, Jerry, rushed over to help me up. "Lucas, what the hell are you doing?" he said. "That was an antique that a renowned artist made for you as a favor. If you didn't like it, you didn't have to smash it." It was only when I saw his familiar face that I knew for certain I had been reborn. At that exact moment, Olivia had just landed the lead role in a major TV series adapted from a best-selling novel. She was getting ready to celebrate her big break. In that life, I had specially commissioned an old artist to craft a delicate glass flower for her as a gift. Jerry had simply said, "Olivia went to a lot of trouble to help you land this lead role. The least you could do is say thank you." But she just lifted her hand and shattered the glass flower on the floor. "Do you really think the whole world revolves around your filthy money? Did you think that landing me a lead role would make me fall into your arms? I don't care how other actresses in this town operate. I'm not the kind of person who climbs the ladder by playing dirty. A tainted gift like this means nothing to me." Olivia completely ignored the gash on my hand from the broken glass. She was too caught up in her own outburst. Her eyes, which were once so bright, were now filled with nothing but disgust and contempt. The friends standing behind her chimed in, echoing her sentiment. "Mr. Johnson," one said, "we are serious actors. We're not the kind of girls you can just buy off with a few expensive toys. We have professional integrity. Money is meaningless to us. If you truly care about Olivia, you should respect her and give her some space." Each one of them put on an air of arrogant dignity, as if they had completely forgotten that in my previous life, it was my connections that had secured them supporting roles in this very series. Back then, their words had filled me with guilt and self-reproach, and I had rushed to apologize to her. She refused to even look at me. It wasn't until I bought her a new sports car that she finally, reluctantly, accepted my apology. Even then, she couldn't resist getting in a final jab. "Don't think for a second this is about your money," she'd said. "This is just what you owed me." Looking back on it now, I see how utterly pathetic I was. If she was truly as pure and principled as she claimed to be, why didn't she just walk away from the lead role? If she hated so much that I had used my filthy money to humiliate her, Then by what right did she continue to stand in the very spot that money had bought her? When I didn't say a word, Olivia frowned. Her friends, who had been lecturing me for several minutes, saw my lack of reaction and exchanged a look. They lowered their voices, muttering, "That's weird. You think we went too far and actually made him mad?" "No way," another whispered back. "Isn't he famous for acting like a total pushover around Olivia?" Someone gently tugged on Olivia's sleeve. "Olivia, maybe we should just let it go for today. That cut on Lucas's hand is probably your fault anyway. Aren't you worried?" Olivia shot me a sideways glance, her face a mask of contempt. What is he without me? If he's got the nerve, he should try leaving me. I held out my injured hand for Jerry to wrap, and spoke with a calm I didn't know I possessed. "Olivia," I said, "we're done." Olivia's body went rigid. Her friends immediately became agitated, and for good reason. In my past life, I had bankrolled their careers just to stay in her good graces. "Mr. Johnson, you need to think this through," one of them warned. "If you let Olivia walk out of here today, you'll never get her back, no matter how much money you throw around." "Mr. Johnson, have you forgotten what happened last time?" another said. "You had that big fight, and you almost lost her for good." A third added, "Mr. Johnson, we're actresses, not your lapdogs to be called and dismissed whenever you please. If you tell us to leave today, don't ever expect us to come back." Olivia cut in sharply. "You're the one who said it. Don't you dare come crawling back later." I raised my eyes to the waiter standing by the door. "Could you please show these ladies out?" Olivia's expression instantly soured. She clenched her fists, spun on her heel, and stormed away. Her friends, having never seen me act so decisively, were momentarily stunned. They fumbled to grab her arm. "Olivia, that's enough. Don't do something you'll regret." She shot them a furious look. "You can't possibly believe him," she spat. "A pathetic doormat like him can't change who he is." She then turned her cold gaze on me. "He's always been a good actor. But this time, it doesn't matter how much he begs. I'm never coming back." Her friends finally caught on, their confidence returning. They resumed their haughty, self-important poses. "That's right. Let Mr. Johnson live with his regret." The truth was, they loved it when we fought. It meant that when I inevitably came back to make peace, I'd have to slip them some gifts and ask them to put in a good word for me with Olivia. This time, however, they were in for a disappointment. "Lucas, you really went and did it," Jerry said, looking at me in disbelief. I just smiled. "It's been a while since we really let loose. You up for some drinks tonight? My man, you've finally come to your senses." He gave my shoulder a hard, familiar slap. He had tried to talk sense into me more times than I could count, but I was hopelessly stubborn. All he could do was run interference between me and Olivia, trying to soften the blow when things went bad. And in my last life, after I died, he had thrown his public image to the wind and slapped Olivia across the face in public. Her fans retaliated with a vicious online campaign against him, and someone even threw acid in his face. This time around, I was going to protect the people I cared about, no matter what it took. We drank late into the night that day. The drive home was long, so we booked rooms at a nearby hotel instead. But as soon as we stepped into the hallway, we ran into a couple of all too familiar faces. Olivia was walking side by side with her first love, Ryan. When she saw me, she instinctively reached out to take Ryan's arm. A flicker of contempt crossed her face. "You just don't give up, do you? Following me all the way here. Let me be perfectly clear. I'm never coming back to you. Ryan is the one I truly love. Our connection is something your pathetic money could never buy." Even as she said it, she couldn't help but sneak glances at me, trying to gauge my reaction. The old me was always so afraid of not being good enough that I never noticed these little tells when she was putting on her airs. Now, hearing those same words, I felt a strange calm, like the surface of a still lake. There wasn't a single ripple of emotion. The change in myself was almost startling. My brief hesitation made her think her words had hit their mark. A triumphant glint appeared in her eyes. "I hope you won't be bothering us again tonight," she said. "Otherwise, I promise you, I will never look at you again." Jerry clenched his fists, clearly unsure of how I was taking all this. I just shot him a smile. "Come on, man. Didn't we say we were going to play some games?" Let's not waste our time here. Olivia's face fell, and Ryan frowned beside her. As we passed them, Jerry shot them a cold look before turning to follow me into the elevator. That's right, Lucas, Jerry said. And nobody like that isn't worth your time. Just as the elevator doors slid shut, I could faintly hear her voice from the hallway, dripping with contempt. I've got him all figured out. Just wait. In a couple of days, he'll be back, begging for my attention. It's so annoying. In my past life, I had debased myself completely for Olivia. I would have done anything she asked. If I went out with Jerry and our friends, Olivia had to be there. Jerry and I, who used to play video games together every night, hadn't logged on in ages. When we finally logged back in, my ranking had dropped all the way to silver. We played for hours, trying to get back in a groove, our phones practically glued to our hands. We were still playing at 3 in the morning when a special notification popped up on my phone from Twitter. I tapped on it. It was a post from Olivia. She had posted a photo of a shirtless man lying in a bed. Her long, slender fingers were resting suggestively on his abs. The man's face was carefully obscured, but I recognized him instantly. It was Ryan. In my past life, seeing a photo like this would have sent me into a blind rage. I would have immediately made arrangements to ship Ryan off to build a career overseas. I knew I was tearing two lovers apart, but I sent him to Hollywood anyway. But thinking about it now, as a public figure, there was no way she would post such a controversial photo for everyone to see. She was willing to have a screaming match with me in public, but she would never allow the slightest hint of scandal to touch Ryan. Sure enough, the Twitter post was set so only I could see it. She always loved to provoke me when we fought. She would wait for me to have a complete breakdown. Then I'd come to her with money and gifts, and she would reluctantly accept my apology, always adding, "This is just what you owe me. I've never given a damn about your filthy money." Looking at that pathetic photo now, I just gave a small, cold smile. And then I unfollowed her. The next morning, Jerry headed back to the set. Only gotten a few hours of sleep before rushing back to work. I was at the office dealing with some business when I got an unexpected call from the studio. By the time I got to the set, the place was in chaos. Jerry's hair was a mess, his costume was ripped in several places, and his lip was swollen, but he was still shouting and trying to lunge forward while a group of crew members held him back. Across from him stood Ryan, looking perfectly calm, like a spectator enjoying the show. People in the crowd were already starting to whisper. I heard Ryan just said that Lucas Johnson is nothing but his and Olivia's personal ATM and babysitter. So Jerry got pissed and went after him. Ryan fought dirty, man, going for the eyes, kicking below the belt. Jerry's too straight-laced, he never stood a chance. But Ryan wasn't wrong. What else does that Lucas guy do besides throw his money around? Our Olivia isn't some girl you can just buy. The crowd grew more animated, turning the whole thing into a spectacle. I pushed my way through the onlookers. The moment Jerry saw me, he straightened up and shouted, "Lucas is here? He's the executive producer. Ryan, you are so dead." Ryan acted like he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. "The only one who's finished here is you, Jerry." "Oh wait, that's right. You're already finished." He lazily looked up. "Mr. Johnson begged me to join this cast. You think you can touch me? You're the one who's screwed." Olivia had recently thrown a massive fit, accusing me of humiliating her with money. Feeling guilty, I had swallowed my pride and gotten Ryan a role in this hit series as a way to make it up to her. Ryan, for his part, was enjoying the show. He was sitting calmly in a chair, sipping tea. He looked over at me and said casually, "By the way, Mr. Johnson, weren't you the one who said you wanted to send me to Hollywood? I've been thinking about it the last few days, and I think I might be open to the idea. Of course, you know I'm a serious actor, not like some people. So if I go, you can't have me sleeping on some cot in a trailer. You'll need to set me up with a decent villa and a car with a driver to get me to and from the set. Oh, and don't even think about sending any of those trashy, low-budget scripts my way. I wouldn't want to disappoint my fans. And don't bother with any projects that are doomed to fail. If you can't find anything good, just go talk to a director and have them write a movie specifically for me." A loud crack echoed through the room as my fist connected squarely with his jaw. Ryan staggered back, covering his face in shock. "You hit me," he stammered. So what if I did? I snarled, looming over him. I thought you wanted to be with Olivia? Shut your mouth, I said. I grabbed a handful of his hair, kicked his chair out from under him, and sent him crashing to the floor. I was on top of him in a second. You live off my money and you dare touch my friend? Ryan, you think you're the only one who knows how to fight dirty? Let me remind you what you just did to Jerry. I'll give you a personal demonstration. I rained punch after punch down on him until he was dazed and seeing stars. Everyone around was frozen in shock, but not a single person dared to try and pull me off. I had financed almost the entire production. Not even the director would dare to say a word against me. Finally, when I'd had enough, I slowly got to my feet. I turned to the director and smiled. I don't think Ryan is in any shape to continue with this project, I said. You should recast his role. I'll cover any and all associated costs. The director's eyes lit up immediately. I found out later that he couldn't stand Ryan, who was a terrible actor with an even worse attitude. He'd only kept his mouth shut because of my investment. I thought back to how I used to be in my last life, so desperate and eager to please, and I couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. After I'd dealt with the mess, I went back and helped Jerry to his feet. He wiped a trickle of blood from his mouth, a satisfied grin on his face. He clapped me on the shoulder. Hell yeah. Lucas, that was a damn good feeling. Haven't you been wanting that Patek Philippe watch? Come on, I'll take you to get it right now. I laughed. You haven't even finished your scenes for the day. What are you talking about? Just you watch, he declared. I'm going to finish every single one of my shots today. When Jerry sets his mind on something, there's no stopping him. He really did work through the night to finish all his scenes. The next morning, he called me, and when I met up with him, he was already in the jewelry store, trying on watches. I was looking down at the display case when I heard a familiar voice nearby. I'll put it on my card. I looked up instinctively, and my eyes met Olivia's. She was already wearing a Patek Philippe, and the friends with her had each picked out their own expensive timepieces. When she saw me looking intently at the watches, she let out a soft, mocking laugh. A while back, she had posted a picture of a Patek Philippe on her Facebook feed, going on about its beautiful craftsmanship and elegant design. I had immediately sent her the money to buy it for herself. In response, she had thrown her glass against the wall. What do you think I am? She had screamed. Every time I mention something I like, you just throw money at me. Lucas, I am not one of those desperate social climbers. Don't you dare insult me with your filthy cash. At the time, I felt guilty for weeks. But now it's all so clear. She had to start a fight first, to paint herself as the injured party. That way, when I came groveling with a gift, she could accept it without compromising her principles. Her excuse was always the same. It's what you owed me. Over the years, she used that same tactic to get countless things from me. She would tell me I was nothing without my filthy money, while simultaneously using that same money to fund her meteoric rise. I walked up to the counter. She shot me a sideways glance, her eyes filled with contempt. She didn't even bother to say hello. Today was the deadline for her brother's tuition payment. According to our usual pattern, if I didn't pay it, her brother, Alex, would be humiliated by the rich kids at his prestigious prep school and eventually expelled. She was still putting on her proud act, refusing to give in. She was waiting for me to be consumed by guilt and come begging her, credit card in hand, to please take my money. Ma'am, the card was declined for insufficient funds, the sales clerk said, looking at her awkwardly. Olivia didn't say a word. She just fixed me with an icy stare. In the past, I would have immediately pulled out another card, explaining that I must have forgotten to transfer her monthly allowance of $50,000. But now, I simply took the card back from the clerk. Oh, I said casually, I guess I haven't transferred any money to that account in a while. It makes sense that it's empty. Her friends immediately jumped in. Well, Mr. Johnson, since you're aware of the problem, you should fix it. You can't seriously expect our Olivia to have to ask you for money, can you? Our Olivia is a respectable actress. She's not going to beg you for pocket change. Exactly, another added. If you want to buy her something, then just do it. Don't act all high and mighty while being too cheap to actually pay. Olivia watched me with a cold expression. When she saw me slide the card back into my wallet, her face fell. Hey, Jerry, I said, I don't think I want to watch anymore. I'm thinking of checking out some sports cars. Jerry paused for a second, then nodded. All right, let's go now. Olivia's expression softened slightly, and her friends exchanged smirks. At least he knows to buy a car to apologize. That's more like it. For a second there, I thought he'd actually changed. He really had me worried. By the way, Jerry asked offhandedly, isn't today the deadline for Olivia's brother's tuition? Olivia just snorted. Let's just wait and see how he handles it. He'll come to me with the card in both hands, begging me to take it, she said through gritted teeth, mocking my voice. Olivia, you have to use my money. But this time, I will never, ever forgive him. Once before, we had a fight that happened to fall on the day her brother's tuition was due. I had put our argument completely aside and focused only on urging her to take my money and pay the school. After all, those kids, born with silver spoons in their mouths, had a deep-seated arrogance. Their favorite pastime was mocking and humiliating anyone they deemed to be beneath them. But she absolutely refused to let me pay the tuition for him directly. The reason, she said, was that her brother Alex had thrown a fit once, calling her in tears. Why is some guy I'm not even related to paying for my school? He had cried. What does that make me? Am I just some bargaining chip in one of your deals? During that fight, I was beside myself with anxiety, but she maintained her cold, superior attitude. It wasn't until I added another $60,000 to the account and presented the card to her with both hands that she finally deigned to accept the filthy money. But why would I put myself through that again? There are plenty of women in this world who would kill to be with me. Why would I waste my time on her? We visited a few different dealerships, and I finally settled on a Maserati. Without a word, Jerry paid for it in full right then and there. Afterwards, he insisted I take him for a drive. Sitting in the passenger seat with a smug look on his face, he held up his phone to take a selfie with me. If you can't hold on to it, just let it go, he said, captioning the photo. Congrats on a new car, brother. I was laughing when my phone suddenly rang. The second I answered, I was met with the furious shouting of Olivia's brother, Alex. You used my tuition money to buy yourself a car? Have you no shame? Everyone else has paid already. I'm the only one left. Are you doing this on purpose to mess with me? Let me tell you something, he continued. I have never liked you. You're obsessed with money, and I will never let my sister end up with someone like you. The car's for you, I said with a smile. His tirade stopped abruptly. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. I continued in a relaxed tone. What's wrong? Why did you stop yelling? Aren't I being obsessed with money right now? He snorted. You broke up my sister and Ryan, and then you use your money to humiliate them. This is the least you could do to make it up to us. You owe us this. I'll let it slide this time. Get the car to my school within the hour and bring my tuition money with you. If you do that, I'll graciously allow you to pay it for me. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. I said the car was for you. I chuckled. And you actually believe me? He was probably stunned silent with rage. After a moment, he started screaming into the phone. Are you insane? Do you want me to make my sister never speak to you again? What is wrong with you? Do you get some kind of sick pleasure out of messing with people? Actually, I said I do, especially when I'm messing with you. I smiled as I listened to his frantic screaming on the other end of the line. Then I hung up, deleted his contact, and blocked his number. When I got home, I was surprised to find Olivia already there. The moment she saw me, she demanded, Did you use Alex's tuition money to buy yourself a car? Looking at her accusatory expression, I found the whole situation hilarious. When I didn't answer, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes, but she held her ground. So it is true? You really care that much about a little bit of money? You have no shame at all, do you? All for your own pleasure. Jerry bought this car for me, I said, my voice even. What business is it of yours? The panic in her eyes vanished, replaced by a cold sneer. I knew you wouldn't have the guts. Fine. The school is getting impatient anyway. I'll do you a favor and let you pay Alex's tuition this time. Olivia, I think you're confused about something, I said, leaning against the entryway table. First of all, even if I had bought this car with my own money, you would have no right to say anything about it. And second, your brother is no dear friend of mine. Since you think my money is so filthy, then from now on, neither you nor he should ever expect to get another dime from me. The next time a bill is due, You can come and ask me for the money yourself. I'll give you the chance to keep your hands clean." Her brow furrowed. "I'm giving you an out here," she snapped. I let out a small laugh and started to walk past her. "Lucas, stop right there." She stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "I see what's going on. You bought that car yourself, didn't you? You were just using that useless friend of yours, Jerry, as an excuse because you didn't want me to know. Did you really think I wouldn't look down on you if you claimed it was a gift? The money you spent on that Maserati could have paid Alex's tuition for years. Did you have to be so selfish, all for a little bit of pointless vanity?" The sharp sound of a slap echoed in the room. Her head snapped to the side, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You've completely lost your mind, Olivia," I said in a cold voice. "Alfred," I called to the butler, "get all of her things and throw them out. From this day forward, she is never to set foot in this house again." Our butler, Alfred, immediately appeared, dragging a suitcase that was already packed. "Miss Davis," he said, "please don't make this any more difficult than it has to be." Olivia gritted her teeth, glaring at me with pure hatred. "You'd better mean that," she seethed. "And don't you ever bother me again." With that, she turned on her heel and stormed out. I was worried Ryan would show up at the studio again to cause trouble for Jerry, so I decided to stick around the set. But when Ryan did show up, it turned out he was there to see me. We met in a private lounge. He took off his sunglasses, revealing the eye I had blackened a few days before. It still hadn't fully healed. No wonder he hadn't told Olivia what really happened. For an actor, his face was his greatest asset. "You win, Lucas," he said. I looked up surprised. "I'm willing to go abroad. I'll get out of your and Olivia's way, just as long as you two stop fighting because of me." He said it as if he was the reason Olivia and I were fighting. To everyone else, I was just Olivia's pathetic doormat, so it made sense. They all knew I was wary of her first love. In my past life, I had plotted to send him packing overseas. So, to the onlookers, his words sounded perfectly reasonable. "Ryan's career is really taking off here," someone whispered. "At this rate, he could be an A-lister soon. If he goes abroad, he'll have to start all over from scratch. He's giving up so much for Olivia. What a waste." But Johnson is obsessed with Olivia. Maybe he's the one forcing Ryan out. Didn't you hear Ryan say he gives up? I bet Lucas pulled some strings to get rid of him. I stirred my coffee, a small smile playing on my lips. "Sorry to break it to you," I said, "but Hollywood isn't interested." Ryan stared at me, stunned. "What? That's impossible. You're the one who said." He trailed off, the realization dawning on him, and he fell silent. The other actors in the room couldn't contain themselves. "Holy crap," one of them blurted out. So Johnson was actually going to send him to Hollywood? And here I was feeling sorry for the guy. What an idiot I am. "Hey, Mr. Johnson, what about me?" "I'll go to Hollywood and get my ass kicked," another actor joked. "Yeah, Ryan, stop playing the victim. Now it looks like you probably deserve that beating Lucas gave you the other day." The door to the lounge burst open. It was Olivia. Ryan quickly put his sunglasses back on. "Ryan," she cried, rushing to his side and shielding him with her body. She glared at me. "Don't you dare apologize to him. You're better than that." Ryan looked down, and as he did, the bruise by his eye became visible. "Oh my God," Olivia gasped. Her hand, which was resting on his arm, began to tremble. Her eyes filled with tears. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ryan avoided her gaze. "It's embarrassing," he mumbled. "Don't be silly," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I would never think that." She threw her arms around him, then turned to glare at me, her eyes burning with a cold, hard hatred. "Don't worry," she said to him, her voice a low hiss. "I will make him pay for this." When Jerry finished work for the day, I realized my car keys were gone, and the Maserati, which had been parked near the studio, had vanished. I checked the security footage. It was Olivia and her friends. They had swiped my keys and taken the car out for a joyride. By the time I tracked them down, the front of the car was a mangled heap of scrap metal. They had been dragged racing through the streets, looking for a cheap thrill. Finally, they had all gotten out, wedged the accelerator down, and let my Maserati slam head-on into a concrete barrier. When she saw me approaching, Olivia didn't show a hint of panic. Instead, She calmly pulled a cigarette from a pack, lit it against the wind, and took a long, slow drag, exhaling a plume of white smoke. Her rebellious, devil-may-care attitude was on full display. It was that air of being in complete control that had once captivated me and countless other fans. "I'm the one who wrecked the car," she said, blowing a smoke ring into the air. "Because of this car, my brother couldn't pay his tuition and had to drop out of school. Also, you could have your little toy. Something that represents your selfishness doesn't deserve to exist." "Are you out of your damn mind?" Jerry yelled, about to lunge at her, but I held him back. Olivia just sneered, completely unconcerned. She knew perfectly well that I would never let anyone touch a hair on her head, just like always. She wasn't worried about the consequences of wrecking my car. In my last life, when I had begged her not to leave me, offering her anything she wanted, she had smashed my crystal-encrusted keychain on the ground right in front of me, claiming it was proof of her contempt for money. Back then, all I could think about was the fear of her walking away. I choked back my tears and forced myself to say, "Smash whatever you want, as long as you come back to me." Looking back, it was like I had put a curse on myself. Olivia leaned casually against the wreckage, watching me as I pulled out my phone. "Mr. Clark," I said into the phone, "my Maserati has been stolen and intentionally destroyed. I need you to handle it. Yes, press full charges. And please file a police report for me. The location is the corner of Elm and Fifth." The color drained from Olivia's face. Her friends were the first to explode. "Mr. Johnson, are you crazy? You're actually calling the cops over this? Do you have a death wish? Are you out of your mind?" Another one shrieked. "You're really calling the police? Do you have any idea how bad this will look for her career?" "Oh, it's not just her I'm reporting," I said calmly. "All of you were involved." The color drained from their faces as they finally seemed to realize this wasn't going to play out the way they had imagined. Their entire careers, from being complete nobodies to landing minor roles in popular shows, had been built on the opportunities one had given them. If I decided to take those opportunities away, they would disappear from the industry overnight. The police arrived quickly. With my lawyer handling the legal side, Olivia was soon facing a compensation claim for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But she was used to me spoiling her. She spent every penny I gave her. She had absolutely nothing to her name. Plus, once the studio got wind of our falling out, they dropped her from the lead role without me even having to ask. Her best friends, who had been cast in supporting roles, were all let go as well. This time, they were all truly clean. Clean to the point where they didn't have a single dirty dollar to their names. "Mr. Johnson," one of them pleaded, "this was all Olivia's idea. We were just going along with it. You're a generous man. Please don't hold this against us." I just smiled politely. "I'm afraid I can't do that," I said. "Aren't you all serious, principled actresses? If I didn't hold you accountable, I would be insulting your integrity, and I would never want to do that." Their faces went pale. They shot venomous glares at Olivia, whispering, "I told you you were taking it too far. Why did you have to drag us into it?" I held up my phone, displaying the account details for the wire transfer, and twisted the knife a little deeper. "You all used to praise her for being so brave and principled, didn't you? Now that she's in trouble, you look absolutely miserable." "This is all her own fault," one of them muttered. "Back when Mr. Johnson was spoiling her, she acted like she was a queen. Without you propping her up, what is she?" The veins on the back of Olivia's hand stood out in sharp relief. I finished checking the payment confirmations and smiled. "All right," I said. "You can all go now." Her so-called best friends fled without a backward glance, leaving Olivia alone in the conference room with me. She still wore that familiar expression of resentful defiance. "I'll pay you back," she said. My tone was casual, almost bored. "Oh, there's no hurry. A few $100,000 is nothing to me." She clenched her jaw. I knew exactly what bothered her the most. My completely casual attitude toward money. It was one of the main reasons we fought so often. She hated that I treated money like it was just a number, that I would use something that came so easily to me to try and buy her. To her, it was the ultimate insult. But for her, that sum, which was just a number to me, represented a chain that would take her years, maybe even a lifetime, to break. Olivia disappeared for a while, but she soon resurfaced, back in front of the camera. This time, however, she was no longer in the spotlight. A small adult film company, capitalizing on the novelty of a fallen star, signed her to a contract. It was an event I certainly wasn't going to miss. Compared to the A-list productions I used to get her into, the conditions here were abysmal. Her past fame, once a source of pride, was now just a reason for everyone on set to mock her. During a break, she angrily shoved away the wandering hand of a male actor, only to be met with a sneer. Still think you're a big shot, huh? Honestly, I can't even be bothered to do scenes with trash like you. You're too cheap. She gritted her teeth so hard I thought they might crack. When filming wrapped for the day, a sudden downpour started. She stood at a bus stop, without an umbrella, huddled under the small awning for shelter. She looked utterly defeated. Suddenly, an umbrella appeared over her head. "Thank you," she started to say, turning around. When she saw my face, the flicker of gratitude in her eyes instantly turned to disgust. "What are you doing here? You didn't have an umbrella," I said with a small smile. "You planned this, didn't you?" she spat. "You just wanted to see me like this, all pathetic and miserable. It makes you feel good, doesn't it?" I just raised an eyebrow, which seemed to infuriate her even more. "You were the one who wouldn't leave me alone, and now you're the one who's thrown me away. You think you can do whatever you want just because you have money, don't you? You lured me into this trap, step by step, just so you could kick me to the curb. Does that make you feel powerful? Lucas, I could never, ever love a person like you. You're a twisted monster who treats people like toys. I will never, ever respect you. Think whatever you want," I said, tossing the umbrella at her. It bounced off her shoulder and fell to the ground. "For a kept woman, you've still got a lot of fight in you." She gripped the handle of the umbrella, her knuckles white, and watched me walk away. She looked like she wanted to snap it in two. My driver pulled up to the curb. I got in, leaned back, and turned on the massaging seat. I had my assistant place a call for me. "Director Miller, hello?" I said. "I have an idea for a project that I think could be very profitable. Are you interested in hearing about it?" Not long after that, Olivia was suddenly back in the public eye. An entertainment company called Apex Entertainment had seen potential in her still beautiful face and cast her in a new variety show. They were marketing her as a comedian, a washed-up actress with her stunning good looks, delivering deadpan jokes and witty one-liners to the camera. The contrast was unexpected, and she quickly gained a massive following. A few days later, she showed up at my office furious. She threw a thick envelope onto the floor in front of me. "Here," she said, "it's the money I owed you, plus 20,000 for interest." Well, coming to some money, have we?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She just sneered. "Lucas, do you really think you're the only rich man in the world?" She leaned in close, her eyes filled with scorn. "The president of Apex is every bit as powerful as you are. In fact, he's better." "Well, congratulations," I said with a laugh. "It sounds like you found yourself a new patron." "Don't you dare compare yourself to him," she snapped. A look of pride and something like tenderness flashed in her eyes. "He sees my talent. That's something a man like you could never understand. For him, I would do anything." I just smiled. "Olivia, speaking of recognizing talent, how many opportunities did I give you? Isn't that better than some boss who just wants to turn you into a clown for the public to laugh at?" "It's not the same," she said, her eyes cold. "He genuinely appreciates my potential. You just saw me as another one of your possessions." And with that, she turned and walked away. That night, I was waiting in a hotel suite. The door opened, and Olivia walked in. The moment she saw me, she froze. "You," she breathed. "What have you done to him?" I was holding a letter between my fingers. The color drained from Olivia's face. It was the love letter she had written to the president of Apex Entertainment, right after she signed her contract. "It's really quite touching," I said, waving the letter back and forth. "You wrote this to me before you'd even met me." I have to admit, I was surprised. She clenched her fists at her sides. "It was you." "Yes," I said with a calm smile. "It's a shame, really. That brilliant president you were so impressed with? I hardly know the man myself. So the man who recognized your talent and gave you a second chance was me all along." She let out a bitter laugh. Of course. You wanted to turn me into a clown, a joke for you to laugh at from behind the camera. You must have had a wonderful time watching. I slipped the letter back into its envelope, a small smile playing on my lips. There's one thing I've never been able to figure out, Olivia. When I give you resources, you see it as a humiliation. But when a complete stranger gives you the exact same resources, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a sign of his brilliant eye for talent. When I suggest you do a variety show, I'm trying to make a fool of you in public. But when a mysterious benefactor makes the exact same suggestion, it's a validation of your natural comedic gifts. Her face was as white as a sheet. My smile widened. Olivia, I said, my voice light and easy. Why do you have to be so pathetic? Her chest was rising and falling rapidly. Finally, she spat out, I'm done. I don't care how high the penalty is. I'll pay to break the contract. She slammed a credit card down on the table. I will never, ever bend to a person like you. The next day, she actually went through with it and terminated her contract. She was walking out the front doors of the building, bag in hand, when Ryan cornered her. He shoved his phone in her face. On the screen was a clip from one of her adult films. His face was beet red with rage. You actually filmed this stuff? He screamed. Have you no shame? You expect me to raise some other man's child. He grabbed Olivia and started hitting and kicking her, his movements wild and vicious. Olivia didn't even try to fight back. She just let the blows fall. For the sake of the company's image, I went downstairs and stepped between them, shielding Olivia. Mr. Miller, I said calmly to Ryan, assaulting someone on my company's property. Have you already forgotten our last conversation? Lucas, Olivia said, her voice trembling. I ignored her and took out my phone. I gave my assistant a simple instruction. A man like Ryan doesn't belong in this industry. Make a few calls. Make sure everyone knows. The color drained from Ryan's face. You're going to blacklist me? Is there a problem with that? I asked, meeting his gaze. He gritted his teeth, then threw his phone to the ground and stormed off. Lucas, a voice said from behind me. Someone was tugging on my sleeve. I turned around. It was Olivia. The look in her eyes was softer than I had ever seen it. I glanced at the bruises that were already starting to form on her face. This isn't the place to talk, I said. Let's go up to my office. She took a sip of the coffee my assistant had brought her. I'll be with you, she said. I had been about to leave, but her words stopped me in my tracks. Oh, she took a few steps closer. But I have 3 conditions. First, you have to get Alex back into Westwood Prep. Second, don't blacklist Ryan. Send him to Hollywood. I heard they're casting for that new comic book movie. There's a role in it that would be perfect for him. You can talk to the director. And finally, I don't love you yet. And when we're together, you can't force me to love you. Are you out of your mind? I almost laughed out loud. What? She stammered, completely stunned. Olivia, what on earth gives you the confidence to think you're in any position to be making demands? Her brow furrowed, and her voice crackled with anger. I already said I'd be with you. What more could you possibly want? Do you think you're some kind of prize? She stumbled slightly, almost losing her balance. A small smile touched my lips. There are more women who want to be with me than I can count. They're younger than you, prettier than you, and have better figures. They're all lining up for a chance. And every single one of them is more obedient than you. So tell me, why on earth would I choose you? She shook her head, her expression one of pure disbelief. No, that's not right. You were never like this before. What happened to you? Lucas, can't you go back to loving me like you were obsessed? What is wrong with you? I understood exactly what she was implying. So, all this time, you've been using my love for you as a bargaining chip? I said, in that case, I have even less reason to want you. A flash of hurt crossed her eyes, but she quickly masked it, biting her lip and holding her head high. I'll be just fine without you, she declared. Oh, I said, my tone indifferent as I turned to open the door. I'm actually looking forward to seeing that. For a long time after that, I heard nothing about Olivia. Director Miller, on the other hand, was apparently losing his mind. He hadn't made nearly enough money on the show, and he'd lost his star performer, the one who brought in all the viewers. I offered him a few words of empty consolation and suggested he could always find other washed-up celebrities to exploit for their remaining scrap of fame. To my great satisfaction, the money I had initially invested in Olivia was nothing compared to the profits she generated for the show as a public laughingstock. And that's not even counting the massive penalty fee she paid to break her contract, which recovered a significant portion of our initial costs. The next time I heard her name, it was on a true crime show I happened to flip to one night. Apparently, after she tried to strike out on her own, she quickly discovered that without me paving the way, nobody was willing to tolerate her proud and difficult personality. Her acting skills were mediocre at best. She could never carry this serious actress title. After facing rejection from one production after another, she had no choice but to return to her hometown and try to start business. And Ryan, having lost me as his benefactor, having lost my support, found himself with no other options. He eventually married her. But her brother, Alex, had never approved of his new brother-in-law, who did nothing but drink, gamble, and cheat. Whenever he got the chance, he would pester Olivia to find a way to get me back in her life. "You'd be better off with the rich guy than with this loser," he'd say. The tension between the two men escalated until, one day, while Olivia was pregnant, it exploded into a violent confrontation. Alex lost his footing and tumbled down a flight of stairs. Ryan simply turned and walked away without a second glance. Because he wasn't taken to the hospital in time, Alex was left permanently paralyzed. And when the authorities finally located Ryan, he was in the middle of soliciting a prostitute and was arrested on the spot. When Olivia heard the news, she rushed to the scene and attacked him in the street like a woman possessed. In the chaos, she lost the baby. In the end, Ryan went to jail, and she ended up in the hospital. I was at the hospital for a routine checkup when I happened to run into her. Olivia's face was pale and drawn, her hair a tangled mess. Without the expensive skincare and beauty treatments I used to provide, she, a woman not yet 30, looked closer to 50. In my past life, at 50, she had still looked like she was 30. People online were still calling her a timeless beauty. Now, her eyes were sunken and bruised with dark circles, as if she hadn't slept in days. "You must be so happy to see me like this," she said. I looked at her pathetic state, but I didn't twist the knife. "I don't get my kicks from watching other people suffer," I replied. She suddenly burst into laughter. I was taken aback for a second. When I looked at her again, her eyes were filled with pure, unadulterated hatred, but she forced herself to speak. "So what if you have all the money and power in the world? You're still all alone, aren't you? I bet you can't find a single woman who's willing to be with you. You could be as successful as you want, but you'll still die alone." She was laughing as she said it, as if for just a few seconds she could reclaim some pathetic sense of superiority and forget the absolute train wreck her life had become. I leaned down, my face close to hers. "Olivia, is that really the only thing you can think of to insult me with? Don't pretend you don't know how many women would kill to be in your place." The color drained from her face. She knew it was true. Even during the years I was most devoted to her, there was never a shortage of women throwing themselves at me. And that was before I had cut her out of my life completely. If I ever felt like it, I could pick any one of them, invest a little time and effort, and groom her into a perfectly acceptable replacement. I looked at her ashen face and smiled. "I hear," I said softly, "that you'll probably never be able to have children." And with those words, the last shred of pride she had left was crushed into dust. I hadn't meant to be so cruel, but she was the one who kept walking into the line of fire. She thought she was holding a knife that could hurt me, but all she did was drive it deeper into her own heart. I turned and started to walk away. After a few steps, I heard a gut-wrenching sob from behind me. I glanced back. She had her face in her hands, her body curled into a tight ball, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. My assistant glanced over at me. "Mr. Johnson?" A small, cold smile touched my lips. "Do you see it now?" I said. A complete and utter clown. Reborn after being used and left to die by the actress Olivia in his past life. Lucas orchestrates a cold, psychological revenge. His masterstroke is creating a fake identity to rescue her career, only to turn her into a variety show clown. When she falls for her mysterious new benefactor, Lucas reveals it was him all along. shattering her pride. Stripped of his influence, Olivia's life implodes into tragedy. In their final encounter, he finds her broken in a hospital and dismisses her as a clown before walking away.